And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome to another round of the Conscious Rasta Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. My name is Keely Owado, aka the Conscious Rasta. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's 12 noon Eastern time, 5 p.m. GMT. And 8 p.m. East Africa time, we get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Wednesday, the 11th of December, 2024 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. Ooh, it was tough. It was hard today getting started on time. A few minutes after the hour. Actually, when I get into days like this, which has been more and more frequently, as I have been pounding the pavement, pushing the clock to get the new book ready. And today is the day when pre-sales go up. Today is the day when I'm down to the last few hours of working on the book. I wrote a book in early 2023. In fact, the first of 10 books I released that year, called From Pen to Power: How to Write and Publish Your Book in 90 Days. And since then, I have been fired up. Now, if I look a little worn for the wear, my eyes might look a little bit drowsy, sleepy. I'm balancing it all out with a 56-day stem cell rejuvenation program, which has the body feeling really, really good. I feel strong. My energy is vital and everything, but keeping them long hours in front of screens, video screens, it is somewhat exhausting, as you could imagine. But we're getting the job done, and I'm very proud to be bringing you the new book entitled Living Superfood Solutions. Here, let me show you the screen. Living Superfood Solutions, using nutrition, using dietary patterns, nutrition. Let me get the exact subtitle up here so you can see it. Living Superfood Solutions, dietary strategies that prevent and reverse common chronic diseases. Living Superfood Solutions. And I'm really proud of the book. I've been working on this one for 4 or 5 months, and I've had this book in mind for even longer than that. And it's crunch time. The book is somewhat comprehensive. I'm going to take you through a little tour of the book here in just a second. Just under 300 pages. In fact, with the index and the table of contents, it will be about exactly 300 pages long. So this is one of the larger books I've ever written. This will be my 54th published books, and number 55 will follow it by hopefully no more than 2 weeks. And number 56 is scheduled to be released the first day of African World History Month, so-called Black History Month. I'm on a roll. We're on a roll. And we're serious about our intentionality. So here's what I want to do. Let's first of all, let me get my families together in the place where I can see you, where you can see me. I say greetings to those of you checking in, wherever you're checking in. If you're on Facebook Live, greetings to each and every one of you. If you are on Rumble, which is our main broadcasting site, we love having you in the house on Rumble. Rumble is in the hazy today. Oh, yes, it is. And it's a pleasure to be with you. always. We're broadcasting live today on LinkedIn as well. And so here's what we're going to do. Let's talk about this. Let me free up some screen so you can see my handsome face. I'm a little giddy right now. I get really giddy is the word. It's a combination of happy and exhausted. Not exhausted, but just like tired. Exhausted means I'm depleted, and I am far from depleted. I got my green tea rooibos here. I put some extra ginger in it today. And I put a little bit of extra, what else was the extra one I put in today? A little extra ginger. And it had a little bit of extra cinnamon in it today. Cinnamon and ginger, cayenne pepper, turmeric. That's what I put. A lot of turmeric. This is kind of like turmeric and ginger powder tea today. Rejuvenating on the cell level. You know that every minute, my body, your body, this is a detail, a fact from the book. Every minute, in fact, I can go to that section right now. My body is producing 3.81 million new cells a minute. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? In fact, let me go ahead and switch to the book. I'm not going to put it up in read mode so you could read along with it. I don't really feel like going through all of that trouble right now. But we're going to say cells per minute. Per minute. I'm just searching through the document. I'm going to read you briefly from several of these chapters. This is from one of the early chapters of the book, The Science Behind Nutrition and Health. And I'm talking about how diet affects cellular health. Hang with me, y'all. I love science writing. I love science literacy. I have facts and details on biosciences in my head that most people are amazed. Say, dang, Keaty, how you know all that? I say, this is my obsession. If my obsession was with girls or women, I have 3 girls and 3 girls in my life. If my obsession was with women, I would have a little black book with lots and lots of their names, and I'd remember details about every one of them. Well, my thing is biomolecular science. How diet affects cellular health. On average, the human body creates approximately 229 million new cells every minute. As a demonstration of this profound realization, it's estimated that around 330 billion cells are replaced in the human body daily. 330 billion. This translates to about 3.8 million new cells every second, which aligns with the often reported figure of approximately 300 million new cells per, not per minute, but per, 300 million new cells per minute. According to an article from Science Alert magazine, and here's the article reference, your body makes 3.8 million cells every second. Most of them are blood cells, by Michelle Starr, Science Alert 23 of January 2021. So, this accounts to, these are numbers equate to 3.30 billion new cells daily, which is 13.75 billion new cells per hour, 229 million cells per minute, and 3.81 million cells per second. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So going forward from here, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with this? Considering the varying lifespans and production rates of different cell types, a conservative estimate for the total number of new cells created by the human body each year would be For red blood cells, 7.3 trillion. For white blood cells, 36.5 billion. Other cell types combined, 10 to 20 billion, a rough estimate, as exact numbers are difficult to determine. Yeah, getting these numbers is no easy task. It does take quite a bit of referencing. Then you got to cross-reference, and you got to, because these things can really range rather widely. So you got to then come to conclude which numbers are more credible than the others. And at a certain point, I have to find out why is there such a differentiation in numbers here? So often throughout life, we hear the cliche, you are what you eat. While this statement applies on different levels regarding our complete being, mind, body, and spirit, there is a strong current of truth on the physiological side. You are what you eat. Earlier, we shared the 11-level eating hierarchy, which ranked how people in Western societies typically eat. The SAD diet, standard American diet. Thus, the question arises, what are these new cellular tissues created from? The source materials for this critical molecular construction can range from junk food, chemicalized and highly processed, quote unquote, food, or to the contrary, from the absolute highest grade of nutrition that our committed lifestyle embraces. You are what you eat. You are what you eat. But because most of us grew up in an era where strict attention to nutritional integrity was a far off afterthought, for extended periods of our lives, the cell creation process was likely compromised every time we consumed less than the ideal diet for our human species. Tragically, this degenerative process has only become worse with each passing decade. Yet, some of us realize the vital importance of optimized nutrition and other health supporting lifestyle habits. We, therefore, raised children in an environment that limited or eliminated those substances proven to compromise biological integrity. We can examine such strict child rearing's physical and mental health and see evidence of a definitive outcome in these children's measured health. To a great degree, our children are what we have been feeding them throughout their formative years. Prenatal and early life nutrition are crucial to children's health and development. Here are some key points regarding its impact. And I was just going to read just those numbers on cellular division. You are what you eat. Now I can't get out of this chapter. I think this is fascinating research. I hope you do agree. Key points about children's nutrition. Listen, Living Superfood Solutions, dietary strategies that prevent and reverse common diseases. If you won't do it for yourself, will you do it for your children, your nieces, nephews, your grandchildren, the children of your neighborhood, your community? If I can't and won't do it for myself because it's inconvenient, do I then extend that negligence from inconvenience to the children? Unfortunately, that's what's happening across America. People are feeding their children fast food multiple times a week because it's inconvenient to make home prepared food of optimal nutrition. We know it's not right, but we do it anyway. And look at the children's health. It's reflective of this compromise. Here are some key points regarding the impact of early life and prenatal nutrition on children's health. Point one, fetal development. Adequate prenatal nutrition is essential for proper fetal growth and development. Nutrients such as folic acid, iron, calcium, and fatty acids are particularly important. Correspondingly, exposure to food contaminants such as endocrine disrupting chemicals compromises fetal development. Yes, that is true. We know it to be true. Now we need to build on that like we realize the absolute truth of this statement. Now, here's something I got to do here real quickly. I've got this list and I'm going to have to just a little bit of formatting while I'm doing it. I've been doing this for all day yesterday and all day today. I have to just right now while I'm speaking, I'm changing the line spacing. Now, when I teach you how to write and publish your book in 90 days, these are the little details, the little nuances that are going to make the formatting of your book really, really stand out. And I'm proud of the fact when people see my books, they commonly reflect how easy the books are to read because of the formatting of the book. Where I have, right now, I'm reading from a bullet list. I make sure that the bullet list, the 2-word introduction to the bullet list item is bolded so that people can easily pull chunks out of the book and quickly anchor themselves in the book. And also, if you have to come back after reading before, these bolded bullet lists make it real easy to read. And then what I just had to do right now was space the bullet list to make sure that there's 6 points between each member or each item on the bullet list, 6-point spacing. And that has to be consistent throughout the whole book. Makes it much easier to read if your book's not all over the place. Okay, so I did that. We're on this key point bullet list. Number 2, neural development. Maternal nutrition can influence brain development. For example, deficiencies in certain nutrients during pregnancy are often linked to cognitive deficits in children. Number 3, and of course, we have an example of alcohol. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a classic example of maternal nutrition. Alcohol is a form of malnutrition that directly impacts the baby. And many women, not all, but many women will forego drinking alcohol while they're pregnant. I say, and I don't necessarily do it in this book, I do it in the book Living 100 Plus Lifespan. I say that prior to conception, for up to 2 years, both parents, the male and the female, should clean up their chromosomes so that when we have the conjunction of the egg and the sperm, the chromosome environment is not corrupted by these toxic substances that we voluntarily take into our bodies for 2 years. Now, I'm proud of the fact my first child was born in 1989. Yeah, she was born in 1989, July 12th, 1989. And I stopped drinking alcohol in August 1986. So fortunately for me, I had over 2 years of cleaning up my chromosomes before the egg and the sperm conjoined to bring us forth our first daughter. What a joy she has been. She was absolutely the most wonderful baby. And without bragging too much, on her 9-month birthday, she was home with her daddy that day. I had my video camera on. On her 9th-month birthday, she walked and she spoke on the same day. 9 months. I hope you have spectacular revelations about your children that you love to brag about. This is a good bragging space here today, people. Neural development, number 2. Number 3, birth outcomes. Poor nutrition, poor prenatal nutrition is associated with adverse birth outcomes, including low birth weight, preterm birth, and increased risk of complications during delivery. Impact of nutrition on childhood growth. Early life nutrition, including breastfeeding and the introduction of solid foods, significantly affects growth patterns and can influence the risk of obesity or undernutrition. Breast milk is designed by evolution to feed the growing brain matter of infants up to 36 months of life outside the womb. I'm going to repeat. Breast milk is designed by evolution to feed the growing brain matter of infants up to 36 months outside the womb. Immune function. Proper nutrition in infancy is vital to developing a strong and balanced immune system. Breastfeeding provides essential antibodies and nutrients that help protect against infections and balance the infant's microbiome complex. We must comprehend that there exists a feedback loop between the mother's breast and the infant's saliva, which is critical to the infant's healthy maturation. And one more point on this bullet list. It does go on, but just one more point. Long-term health. There is evidence suggesting that nutrition in early life can have long-term effects on health, including the risk of chronic diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, autoimmune diseases, and obesity later in life. Whew. That's awesome. I hope you find this to be compelling. Let me just see if there's anybody out there talking to us on these issues. And this is just such a great chapter, the science behind nutrition and health. I go on to talk about the phrase post-traumatic slave syndrome. I'm going to share this one paragraph, and then I'm going to get out of this chapter because I'm going to end up reading the whole chapter. And we did do when we were doing the research for each of these chapters, we did put all of those into one big massive file. For those of you who want to follow our raw studies as I was producing the book, there is a collection, the Living Superfoods MP3 collection that's available on my payloads page. Just real quickly, I hope you appreciate this paragraph. Beyond nutrition, I've also reported on the lifelong impact of prenatal and early life exposure to stress. We have often heard of lingering effects of intergenerational stress on a child's long-term mental health, some referring to this as, quote, post-traumatic slave syndrome, unquote. The phrase post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS, bear with me, stop that and back that thing up. Wait a minute, where we at? Come on, okay, and save. The phrase post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS, describes the multi-generational trauma and injustices experienced by Africans and indigenous peoples across the diaspora. From the dawn of slavery to the high number of deaths of Blacks at the hands of law enforcement, clinical psychologist Dr. Joy DeGruy has stated, quote, although slavery has long been a part of human history, American chattel slavery represents a case of human trauma incomparable in scope, duration, and consequence to any other incidents of human enslavement. Now, I don't necessarily completely agree with that. The incidents of slavery in Brazil lasted longer than the United States, and it was pretty brutal. They slaughtered the Portuguese were brutal and vicious. The incidents of enslavement in Argentina was really quite brutal, where at the end of the whole process, the Argentinian white population or white mulatto population slaughtered the majority African population, to the point where at one point Argentina had a 57% Black or African descended majority population, Today, it's estimated to be around 3%. So Dr. Joy DeGruy, I love her. I love her scholarship. I love her book. Just brilliant, very eloquent. Yet then again, we sometimes make statements that are a bit hyperbole, although no one can deny and should ever attempt to deny the brutality, absolute viciousness of the African experience in the United States during slavery, emancipation, the Reconstruction period, the Jim Crow period, apartheid, the so-called civil rights movement, and even up to today with a high level of brutalities against people of African heritage in the United States. As Rodney King stated, can't we all just get along? Multiple studies reported across a spectrum of peer-reviewed science journals have confirmed that prenatal exposure to stresses affects the mother and has been shown to impact the child's outcome even decades after birth. Vivette Glover, professor of perinatal psychobiology at the Imperial College of London, shared the following insights on this connection between the prenatal environment and a lifetime of related disorders. She wrote, and I quote, "If we want to understand child development, we need to start before birth. We have known for decades that health depends on an interaction between our genes and our environment. But we've also come to realize that a key part of that environment is in the womb before we're born. There is now considerable evidence that the mother's emotional state during pregnancy can affect the development of her baby's brain. This is because of fetal programming, where a changing environment in the womb through different sensitive periods can alter the development of the fetus. This then goes on to affect the child in the longer term and into adulthood. This is clearly important in physical health. If a baby grows less well than it should in the womb, he or she will be at greater risk of coronary heart disease or diabetes in later life, but there's now considerable evidence that fetal programming is also important for neurodevelopment in the brain. That quote again was from Vivette Glover, writing in The Conversation, August 2013, the article entitled "The Effects of Prenatal Stress Can Affect Children into Adulthood." And we've got to take this seriously, people. Unfortunately, because of the messed up social economic situation, a lot of our women experience very high degrees of stress. And greetings to you, Brother Daoudi. He is with us here in he's with us in Eastern Ghana today. Great to have you with us, my brother. I got nothing but mad love and respect for you, my brother for life, Brother Daoudi Mahali. I'm talking about you, man. You know I am. I got another message here. Now we are doing right now. We are in the background. We are doing, a group of us are doing a 56-day stem cell rejuvenation protocol. That's going to be a book coming out at the beginning of February. And I just got a note. You got to hear how this, and Brother Kwame, he had allowed me to use his testimony from last week. He said today, great rising wellness family. I'm on day 3 of the water fast, and I must say it has been a wonderful experience since starting the fast. This is day 11. I dropped another 4 pounds. 4 pounds on his 3rd day of his water fast. My weigh-in today is 92.65 kilograms. This fast has allowed me to do some self-reflection and to better focus on my goals. Congratulations. That is absolutely awesome. Let me give brother a big up and a shout, and congratulations. Congrats. You are in your brilliant pathway. And that is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I love hearing from people with great things to say. I've been sharing from my book. I'm going to come out of this chapter right now. And we talk about these links between childhood womb exposures to stress, as well as childhood malnutrition and the long-term impacts to our health because of this. Two questions are at the heart of this chapter on the sciences behind nutrition and health. Number one, what are the hallmarks of nutritional biochemistry? And two, why study the biochemistry of nutrition? And that's how the chapter goes on. I want to come out of this chapter and go to another chapter. We've been reading from the relationship of chronic diseases to malnutrition. I have this quote that begins that chapter. This quote from Marcus Samuelson. He writes, "We struggle with eating healthy. We struggle with eating healthily, obesity, and access to good nutrition for everyone. But we have a great opportunity to get on the right side of this battle by beginning to think differently about the way that we eat and the way that we approach food." Very, very important. The science behind nutrition. I'm going to skip forward and we're just taking little pieces from the book. If there's anybody that has any comments, I'd love to share your comments on the air today. We are live. Have our Rumble family is checking in. Batsu Randa, I see you, beloved. Sawubona. Uja all checking in and representing the stem cell rejuvenation program guided by Baba Kiti. And I ask you, beloved, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like you look? Because you look spry and young and energetic and vital and just tickled to be inside your own skin. And of course, you always look like that. Here, 1 second. I've got to do something. It's going to take me 5 seconds off the microphone. And I want you to just bear with me 4 or 5 seconds. And that was more like 12 seconds. But job got done. What happens is at this time of the day, especially when I've been in, it's a little bit cold in the room. I allow my body to adjust to the seasons. That's part of activating the sirtuin circuits, which is good for stem cell rejuvenation and proliferation. So yeah, I keep the temperature somewhat low in the rooms where I'm existing. And also that causes me, and when I start talking in the morning, mucus to start moving out of my body because I haven't been talking since maybe yesterday about this time or so. And so we're live, we're direct, we're here. We're talking about food, nutrition. I'm sharing from my book, the book entitled Living Superfood Solutions, Dietary Strategies that Prevent and Reverse Common Disease. And here, I can just share this different way. There we go. Living Superfood Solutions is right there. Going forward, oh, I did see one more comment came in from UK for Africa One. Hatep Brother Kiti and Global LB family checking in and out today. Just EA. And whatever EA stands for, I know it's right. I know it's righteous. And we appreciate that. So here we are, where we at. 1 second, let me just get this thing caught up because it was kind of lagging behind the show. What I am going to say is today, pre-sales of the book begin. We are also continuing our December fund drive for LIB Radio Black Star Media. So, what a great way for you to support LIB Radio and Black Star Media by getting a pre-sale copy of Living Superfood Solutions. I expect to send the book to the printer within 24 hours at the absolute latest. I probably can get it done today. It's a lot of work, people. It's a lot of work finishing a book. I have to read the book about 8 times to get it right. And even then, after the book is published, I've still got to keep reading it and pull the little things that snuck through out. Just this morning, I thought I was ready to send it to the printer today or ready to start finishing, because the finishing is done after all of the text is done and edited and error corrected. All of the body of the text is done. Then I have to work on the table of contents and the index. The last thing I do before going to the printer is not the last thing, but for finishing the book, putting in the PDF to go to the printer, is I have to do the index, which is at the back of a book when you're looking up a word. Say I'm looking up cardiovascular disease, I'll go to the index and it'll tell me all the pages where CVD is being discussed. So I have to clean that index up, because when you're writing the books, things shift. A paragraph or so can move to the next page. And if that paragraph has some index words in it, then you go to pull up the index and it'll give you the wrong page. So that's among the last things I've done. And then after the index, I go to the beginning of the book, the table of contents, make sure that all the titles and all the page numbers of the titles and the sub chapters, all of those are listed correctly. So we don't want, and I've had books come out before, and those were wrong. Where the index pages, I had to search for 6 pages to find the index word I was looking for. They told me to go to page 92. Now I got to figure, is it on page 86 or 96? So we can do better than that. I teach you all of this in the Write and Publish Your Book course, of which I'm very excited about. Right now, let me go back into the book. And I don't have a printout of this. I used to, back in the day, print out each chapter of the book as I was writing it, so I could have a handy copy to read. I'm just going to randomly just jump into a section of the book. This section is entitled Combating Obesity Through Nutrition. That's a very, very important topic, combating obesity through nutrition. Let me show you how the chapter opens up. And we're going to go to part of this chapter and show you what the research shows. I began this chapter, as each chapter of the book has a inspiring quote or two sometimes. This one is from Naval Ravikant, who writes, "Doctors won't make you healthy. Nutritionists won't make you slim. Teachers won't make you smart. Gurus won't make you calm. Mentors won't make you rich. Trainers won't make you fit. Ultimately, you have to take responsibility. Save yourself." Naval Ravikant. Here's how I open the chapter. Since the publication of my 2013 book, Get the Weight Off, 30 Days to a New You, I have identified some 33 distinct and common disorders and diseases associated with overweight and obesity. We can, and we should, comprehend much of how the modern environment has triggered a devastating international crisis of excessive weight among national populations. Herein, I want to share just a few key points that allude to the logic of the process by which weight gain occurs. Comprehending this etiological process of how obesity becomes problematic should help to resist the disorder. Therefore, knowing one's body mass index, BMI, and checking your weight daily is very important. Body mass index is a good gauge of body fat. The most basic definition of overweight and obesity is having too much body fat, so much so that it presents a health risk. A reliable way to determine whether a person has Bear with me. Don't do that. A reliable way of determining whether a person has too much body fat is to calculate the ratio of their weight to their height squared. Contrary to popular myth, the body mass index is not biased toward whites. Body mass index is a measure used to classify individuals based on their weight relative to their height. The BMI classifications are as follows. And I didn't take my weight this morning, but I've been doing it all month and I know exactly where it is, 150.1 to 150.6. Probably it's under 150 today because yesterday I didn't eat very much at all. And I did do 19 hours of intermittent fasting. So underweight, if your BMI is less than 18.5, the risks individuals in this category may face risks such as malnutrition, weakened immune systems, osteoporosis, and fertility issues. They may also experience fatigue and have a higher susceptibility to infections. Normal weight, BMI 18.5 to 24.9. Generally, individuals within this range have a lower risk of weight-related health issues. However, factors like diet quality and physical activity still play a crucial role in overall health. Overweight, your BMI 25 to 29.9. Those classified as overweight may have an increased risk of developing conditions such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, and certain types of cancer. They also experience higher rates of joint problems and sleep apnea. Obesity, BMI of 30 and above. Class 1, 30 to 34.9. Increased risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and certain cancers. Obesity-related conditions can start to develop. Class 2, if your BMI is 35 to 39.9. Higher risk of severe heart conditions, including cardiovascular diseases, stroke, and metabolic syndrome. There may also be a greater likelihood of developing joint issues, arthritis, autoimmune diseases, and respiratory problems. Class 3, obesity, BMI 40 and above. This class, often referred to as severe or morbid obesity, poses the highest health risks. Individuals face significant risks of heart disease, diabetes, certain cancers, and a reduced life expectancy. There may also be increased complications during pregnancy, surgeries, and a higher risk of psychological issues such as anxiety and depression. It is important to note that while BMI is a useful screening tool, it does not directly measure body fat or account for muscle mass, distribution of fat, or overall health. Therefore, it should be considered alongside other assessments and health indicators. And I completely agree with that point. Not everybody agrees on the value of body mass index as a measure of health potential. I have heard people express such dissent with statements like, quote, "I'm not fat," unquote. I'm not fat, I'm big boned, unquote. Others have claimed that the BMI was designed to work for white men, which is not factual, but the first historical research that eventually produced the index began centuries ago with an investigation of thousands of European men's relationship to weight and health. Other measurements, such as flotation, weight displacement, and waist measurement, can better indicate one's relative health status. And so I go on to talk about obesity, challenges, and consequences. Subchapters continue with caloric balance and weight management. Very, very important point. Malnutrition and the efficiency of fat storage. These are subchapters of this chapter. Effective dietary interventions for weight loss, removing our bodies from the pool of exploitation. Let me just share with you that. This is what I was writing on this morning because I was reading through the PDF of the whole book laid out, and then I came across a couple of sections of the book. One section that just had a short list, and the list was there, but nothing was written on each item of the list. So I had to write this whole section right now. I had to write this morning. Removing our bodies from the pool of exploitation. The poor nutritional lifestyle habits of the American public, along with other vulnerable populations across the globe, must become more responsible if we are to avoid the continued spread of diet-related chronic diseases. We must identify responsible entities and develop appropriate strategies to protect ourselves and our families. Here are a few of the identified exploitive entities. Number one, media. Across news, drama, comedy, advertisements, and special reports, the idea of eating to prevent disease is constantly distorted. One example is the frequent use of alcohol versus water in movies and TV. Point two, food producers. I tried to keep these lists as short as possible. Two, food producers. With each passing decade, the mass of food distributed to the public gets further denatured. From seed stock to retail distribution, the entire food supply chain appears to be more focused on maximizing profits than protecting the public. Point three, processors. After harvested crops are amalgamated, food processing levels each reduce the natural qualities of the harvest. With increased processing, key vitamins, enzymes, and complex carbohydrates are compromised, leaving behind empty calories and unnatural substances that provoke one's provoke one's immune reaction. That's very important. Again, with increased processing, key vitamins, enzymes, and complex carbohydrates are compromised, leaving behind empty calories and unnatural substances that provoke one's immune reaction. Advertisement. One of the primary ways people receive information is through the ubiquitous mass of advertisements that saturate the media. Among the most damaging are ads for fast food, junk food, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, and convenience foods, along with those that make fun of or belittle healthier lifestyle habits. Education. It would be wonderful if the public education system embraced healthy lifestyle habits as desirable qualities for students to mature into responsible citizens. On the contrary, each decade, we witness further degrading of the health status of students. This indicates that their education is not empowering them to make better health decisions, but to the contrary. Widespread scientific illiteracy has become a plague upon the nation. The next one on this list, drug manufacturers. Toward a relentless quest for more market penetration and higher profits, pharmaceutical manufacturers have created unholy alliances with the media, regulatory agencies, medical education, and standard healthcare service providers. They have discovered that the public is more interested in suppressing the short-term inconveniences of disease symptoms than in preventing them in the first place. That's true. Continuing, regulatory agencies. As citizens of powerful and prosperous nations, we would love to believe that the entire spectrum of government agencies and leadership would be absolutely dedicated to protecting all members of the citizenry. Tragically, that is not the case. A spectrum of federal agencies, including the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, Food and Drug Administration, FDA, National Cancer Institute, NCI, U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, and Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, along with their state and municipal counterparts, have been raised to protect the public health and welfare. My conclusion and primary motivation for this book is that these regulatory agencies have failed their mission sufficiently, have failed their mission not sufficiently, have tragically failed their mission. Let me just highlight that word. I'll take it out later once I figure out what to replace it with. So we must rebel and learn to protect ourselves. This terrible plague of overweight and obesity that has overtaken the majority of the U.S. population is being experienced in numerous developed countries across the globe. It is similarly rising to plague developing countries as their middle classes can now afford to eat the Western diet and increasing amounts of junk and fast food. Let me repeat that last sentence. I just changed it, edited it. It is similarly, this talking about this plague of overweight and obesity is similarly rising to plague developing countries as their middle classes can now afford to eat in imitation of the Western diet with increasing amounts of junk and fast food. We can do better than that and commit to improving our general nutrition much sooner than later. Then I go on. The next chapter on the book is on vitiligo as an autoimmune disorder. Yes, in the book, Living Superfood Solutions, I take on vitiligo as an autoimmune disorder. With Living Superfood, we've shown that autoimmune disorders are not so difficult to deal with. And if vitiligo is one of them, then let's get down to it, to where the immune system has become so aggressive because of toxic exposures, environmental exposures, that it now is attacking the body's own tissues, including melanocytes, which exist in the skin at a density of hundreds and thousands of melanocytes per square centimeter, have to be rebuilt, reconstructed. This also goes into, and I introduce stem cells in this chapter of the book, later to realize the more I started looking at stem cells as a solution for vitiligo, stem cells were the magic to life itself, the magic elixir, the fountain of youth. And so I have a whole other book following, 2 books after this one, a whole nother book coming out called The Stem Cell Revolution. The subtitle of that book is, I have 3 books right here on my desk that I'm writing simultaneously. The Stem Cell Revolution, a holistic approach to stem cell activation, proliferation, and differentiation for optimal health and longevity. I probably should put the fountain, if this, the fountain, is this the fountain of youth, on the title on the front page. Have we discovered the fountain of youth? Yes, we have. And in this book, let me talk a little bit about melanocytes. Melanocytes. Vitiligo is a chronic autoimmune condition where the immune system mistakenly targets, attacks, and destroys melanocytes, the epidural dendritic cells responsible for producing pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes. This results in white patches on various body parts, including the skin, hair, and mucous membranes. Various mechanisms of vitiligo development have been extensively researched across peer-reviewed science literature. Just one example, vitiligo is a multifactorial disorder that combines genetic susceptibility, the generation of inflammatory mediators from environmental triggers, that's the autoimmune component, and autoimmune responses. That from Schallreuter et al. 2008, Berkvist and Ezedine 2021. Those are the references. Attracted by pro-inflammatory cytokines, or cytokines, I believe is the word, autoreactive CD8 plus T cells that destroy the pigment-producing cells of melanocytes through the mediation of interferon gamma IFNY signaling, are believed to promote the apoptosis of melanocytes in vitiligo. Recent studies have found a subset of T cells called skin-resistant memory T, TRM cells, which do not circulate but reside at the white spot site of previous lesions. Therefore, TRM cells are responsible for vitiligo relapse, the most difficult part of treatment. So they have treatments for vitiligo, but it relapses. The reason it relapses is because they're treating the symptoms and they did not stop the source of assault in the first place, which is the autoimmune disorder. Unfortunately, that's the way Western medicine works. It wants to treat the symptoms. They will give you paint to put over the spots rather than go into the internal systems of the body and rejuvenate, replace, replenish, regenerate the melanocytes using something that's already in the body. Natural stem cell differentiation, activation, proliferation. But we know better than that. We can do better than that. So if someone out there knows someone with vitiligo, pass my number on. Pass my contact on. A little bit more on this. In the individuals with vitiligo, the immune system's T cells, this is my writing, not an excerpt, which normally defend against unwanted invaders, mistakenly identify and target melanocytes as foreign entities. This results in the destruction of these pigment-producing cells, causing the characteristic white patches. Vitiligo is not limited to skin manifestations. It can also have systemic implications. Research suggests that approximately 15 to 25% of people with vitiligo also develop other autoimmune disorders, such as autoimmune thyroid disease, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, psoriasis, pernicious anemia, Addison disease, systemic lupus erythematosus, celiac disease, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. So then we go to talk about key features of vitiligo pathogenicity, meaning where does it come from? Chronic disease, autoimmune disorder, prominent symptoms, multi-system involvement, pathogenesis, quality of life. Let me just read this one about pathogenesis. Vitiligo is believed to be a combination of genetic predisposition, stress, sunburn, or exposure to certain chemicals. Family history and certain genetic markers can increase the risk. At the same time, the development of an autoimmune disorder is a direct trigger for the disorder that often appears as a person ages. It frequently develops before the age of 20. That's talking about pathogenesis. We talk about quality of life and treatment options. I talk about T cell mediated melanocyte destruction, where this comes from and how this builds as an autoimmune disorder. So once we build this and we understand it as an autoimmune disorder, with Living Superfood Nutrition Solutions, autoimmune disorders are not so difficult to tackle and conquer. Your body's designed for order, and your body replaces these cells and the tissues that the cells create at a very rapid rate. So why not? Why not put a real workable solution? Is anybody out there with me? I'm making sure I'm hearing from anybody. Nobody talking to me. Did I lose you? I think I have a good size audience today, but there you are not responding. Let me double check. As we do the best we can to do the best we can. Sometimes the best we can is still just not good enough. Still just not good enough. And so we have to figure out how can we do better. Going forward, I welcome you, our listening audience, to be a part of the conversation. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time asking and begging and asking today. This is not, I'm just a little tired and I still have to finish this book. We are talking today about health and nutrition, and for some odd reason, somehow, Facebook is having an issue. That was what's happening in the background. So Facebook, I hope you're not a victim of the Syrian revolution. There's a lot of mess going on in the world today, people. A lot of mess. We really need to be paying attention. I'm going to begin to wrap it up. Let me see how much broadcast we've done so far today. Yeah, I've done about an hour. That's about all I need to do for today. The book is now available. We are doing fund drives, so I can take the remaining time to remind you a good way to support the fund drive would be to pre-order this book. Somebody out there, it may have happened already, but somebody out there is going to be the first one, their first official purchase of Living Superfood Solutions, dietary strategies that prevent and reverse common chronic diseases. Prevent and reverse common chronic diseases. First of all, let me go into the book and give you a list of these common chronic diseases that we're talking about. I do this on the inside cover of the book. In the first couple of pages, we're talking about where's the list? Common chronic diseases. Let me just say, I know I have the list in here. I just don't know the book so well to remember right where everything is. So we're looking at chronic diseases. Don't do that. Searching for find common chronic diseases. I have listed this a bunch of different times. Let me just see if I can get to this. Where is this list? Here we go. Here's what I have it. This is in the chapter. What's the chapter called? Medical costs are bankrupting the middle class. Here is a list of the most common chronic diseases affecting the populations of the most developed nations. I could list many more, Yet the commonality of this specific group of diseases and disorders compels us to look closely at these diagnoses. Now, this is the core of the book, this book. Within Living Superfood Solutions, we will devote substantial research into the causes of these ailments and offer nutritional solutions for prevention, stabilizing, and even reversing this group of illnesses. We have a lot on our plate as we take on the challenge of conquering these 22 diseases using nature's bounty as our primary weapons for wellness. So these 22 diseases, if you're concerned about your health, your family's health, here are 22 diseases that this book is intended to address with Living Superfood Solutions. They are, in alphabetical order: Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, autoimmune disorders. And in autoimmune disorders, in another book, I identify over 60 of those, probably closer to 70 autoimmune disorders. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, chronic constipation, chronic inflammation, cognitive disorders, diabetes, edema, fatty liver disease, gastrointestinal disorders, gout, gut dysbiosis, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, immune deficiency, kidney failure, mental illness, metabolic syndrome, overweight, obesity, peripheral neuropathy, thyroid disease, and vitiligo. Those are the 22 diseases and disorders taken on by this book. So if you or someone you know is suffering from one, two, or more of them, invest $19.99 plus postage in the book. It is one of the best investments you could possibly make. Come on, people. Don't delay it. The longer you delay resolving these, the more they compound until now one disease becomes two, becomes four, becomes 8. When you procrastinate, what is your health worth? Right now, this is the peak of the holiday shopping season. People are getting crazy out there. Now, I haven't been leaving the house because of this book. So I'm not out there. I did go to the post office a couple of days, and there's a long, long line at the post office. It's people getting this stuff in the mail, and they're trying to do the best they can to keep up with the expectations of this holiday season. I'm not going to put people down for doing that, but I am going to push people up for not doing it, give you a big up for not participating in the holiday consumer shopping bubble. I'm going to big up my sisters and my brothers for keeping their family wealth and prosperity in the family and not getting caught up in the hype and hysteria of gotta have this, gotta have that. We can do better than that, people. We most certainly can do better for ourselves, for our children, for our family, for the future, for life. We can do better than that. So on that note, let me just double check. Nobody talking to me. I want everybody, if you would please, hit the like button for today's broadcast. Let the algorithm know that, yeah, even though I don't talk to Katie, I do like what he does. If you can support our fund drive, you can go to libradio.com, scroll down to the front page of the book, and you can make a contribution of any amount that you want. You can become a subscriber. You can make a one-time contribution of any amount. And we're going to do the best we can to let everybody know how much we appreciate your contribution to building and helping us to maintain the integrity of the People's Academy, which is what I have come to call LIB Radio, the People's Academy. Tell your friends to tell their friends we have our own now. And look for the link. I shared the link a little bit earlier. I'll put it in the comment section of today's broadcasts, so you can get your hands on the book. Be the first. Be the authority. Be the expert in your family. That when it comes to health, when it comes to vitality, when it comes to doing what we do, knowing what we know, to keep ourselves young and vital and healthy, that we do the right thing. That we do the right thing. It's very critical that we do the right thing. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family. Do it for the future. Do it for as a way of fighting back against the establishment. Don't hand or computer print you a gun and go assassinate some executive of a corporation you hate. If you hate the medical, pharmaceutical, drug complex, you are not alone. But the assassination is not a solution, not a workable solution at all that we should even think about or consider. We should be talking about getting extraction from the matrix, the exploitive matrix. We can do better than that, people. We can do better than that, but we've got to have a plan to do better. We got to have a system for doing better. We have to have something that's real. That is the alternative that we offer you through LIB Radio and LIB TV. So contribute. Make a donation. Small amount, large amount, you decide based upon your critical needs. We're spending on average $1,000 a month during the holiday shopping bubble. Some people are spending 3 times that. What are we going to do with what the Creator has put in our hands is the critical question of the day. You can share a little love during our December fund drive on LIB Radio. We appreciate love you for it. Let's all pull together. Let's all harambe. Let's all pull together. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a good day here on LIB Radio. I feel great. I'll be honest with you. I feel fantastic. I feel as if we are making significant milestone today with the publication of my 54th book. Goes on pre-sale beginning today. We encourage each and every one of you to do your part. Let's all pull together and let's all celebrate this wonderful life that the Creator has granted each and every one of us. Celebrate these beautiful children that they have placed under our care. Celebrate our parents, the many great sacrifices that they made in their lives to allow us to enjoy the fullest of integrity in our lives. We are truly a grateful people. We are truly a grateful people. Tell your friends to tell their friends we have our own now. And we're very proud of who we are, what we do, and who we do it with. We are LIB Radio. We are LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.